how's it going? I'm Bright Lion, and today we're going to talk about the new arcade extraction shooter, Delta Force. We're going to chat about the gunplay, the gameplay, progression, the modes and maps, as well as just a general feel of the game. Delta Force is a new entry into the growing list of extraction shooters. Formerly known as Delta Force Hawk Ops until getting memed to death, it is itself an entry into a long list of Delta Force games. It's currently in early access, but should release sometime in early 2025. I was a bit late to this one because I didn't get into the early access period originally, but when they opened up the free demo of the extraction and multiplayer modes, I jumped right in. First, I'm just going to talk very briefly about the multiplayer mode and my thoughts on it, and then we'll get onto the extraction shooter mode. This multiplayer mode plays a lot like Battlefield, specifically everyone's least favorite Battlefield, 2042. Now, I personally really liked that game, but everyone else seemed to hate it. They've got the same setup as 2042 with the specialists and abilities, but I'll admit it is a little bit more streamlined and less clunky than 2042 was on launch. Like I mentioned, I was a big fan of 2042, so I'm having a lot of fun with their multiplayer. Of the specialists available, I spent the most time on the medic class and the guy who can run super fast. The maps I played were pretty cool, and I'm a fan of the attack defend game mode. It plays a lot like the breakthrough game mode on 2042, which I, coincidentally, was also a fan of. However, I know that the multiplayer mode is not really the draw here and not what they're focusing on for gameplay. So let's pivot over to the extraction game mode and talk about that for a while. My initial thoughts were that this feels a lot like Arena Breakout Infinite, but less bad. I liked the addition of extra objectives on the map, such as the safes and the various heists that you can pull off. I was also a big fan of the gunplay, the recoil, the weapon modding system, and the pace of the gunfights. I like that it has an auto-match squad feature, ensuring that even if I'm playing by myself, I can be grouped up with two randos who have no idea what's going on and will get me killed. But there's also a chance that I'll get grouped with two absolute giga-chads and I won't have to lift a finger for the duration of the match. The looting on the various maps felt a little bit lame to me. It was just, digging through suitcases or crates or whatever just to find a couple pieces of loot. And I felt like it didn't really matter what I picked up as long as my bag was full by the end of the game. I also am not a huge fan of the med system. It's very similar to that from Arena Breakout, and I think it ends up with just doing way too much surgery. One thing that I liked the most about Tarkov was that there were different med items for different injuries. But in this game, and in order to simplify the process, they've kind of condensed different sorts of injuries into one, where you just do surgery for 10 seconds. However, I can see this being more appealing to most players. The various tasks in this game felt a little bit uninteresting to me as well. I think that the inclusion of the in-game events and missions that you could accomplish rather than the out-of-game missions for you to accomplish were much more challenging and engaging. I'm a big sucker for feeling like what I'm doing matters. When I do something, I like to know why, or if there's a reason. This is something that Tarkov excelled at, even though I know nobody reads the quest text. It actually does try to provide you with some sort of context for why you need to shoot 10 guys with a shotgun. I think overall, Delta Force is a solid experience for a free-to-play extraction shooter, but I am wary of future implementations of paid currency and paid in-game boosts. We all saw what happened with Arena Breakout. As soon as the game came out, they offered easy ways for you to swipe the card and get boosts in-game. I know a battle pass is pretty much unavoidable, and I'm okay with that. Battle passes, as long as they offer mostly cosmetic rewards, are a good thing for the game and give players something to strive for each day. I like the specialists and their different abilities, as this adds an interesting and additional layer of complexity to gunfights. Usually in extraction shooters, most fights boil down to whoever peeks first dies, which leads to most people just sitting in corners or hiding underneath things waiting for that first person to peek. However, in this game, there are abilities that can kind of mitigate that problem. It really helps make gunfights better paced and a little bit more interesting to partake in. One of my favorite features of this game is something they call the Mandel Break. I think it's a cool feature, and I love it when in-game missions have out-of-game cosmetic rewards, and it easily offers more PvP action as the players on the map are aware of your location when you have this item. Put simply, you pick up the item in one location, carry it to a secondary location where you have to defend it for 4 to 5 minutes. During this time, your location is present on the map, but you can drop the item. This allows you to kind of bait enemy players into pushing locations that you might not be at. And the added risk of trying to get this item from point A to point B really does make the stakes feel more real in a game where looting and money seem kind of irrelevant. This could just be a symptom of the test period, but me personally, I've been showered in as much in-game currency as I could possibly spend. Speaking of money, I do like the auction house feature. It's much more similar to Arena Breakout and nothing like Tarkov, which in my opinion is a very good thing. I'm not going to elaborate on that because this video is not about Tarkov. One other thing I don't like is the tiered difficulty modes, much like Arena Breakout had. This system only stands to separate a player base, when I think Tarkov handled it the best. You take the high-level chads and the low-level noobs and you just throw them all together. From a financial perspective, I can understand why they did this. If they want to sell cosmetics to new players, they can't be constantly getting dunked on by dudes with 3,000 hours in a game that's just like this. For me, the initial lobbies that you get thrown into feels like mostly bots, and I think most people have a similar experience. But I imagine this is also to help new players get used to the systems and try it out in a less competitive environment. The AI PMCs were challenging, but a lot of the time they would just shoot at you indiscriminately through concealment and spam their abilities over your head constantly. I think I've said enough here to get my opinion across. I think the game is solid, but much like other Tarkov copies, it's not really going to compete with Tarkov. It's kind of a different genre, one that I like to call the arcade extraction shooter. It's the same way why you can't really compare a game like Squad to Call of Duty, even though they're both first-person shooters. For a final rating, I will say it's a solid experience. I was a bigger fan of the multiplayer mode than the extraction shooter mode, but that's probably because I got that bug out of my system after I quit playing Tarkov. Overall, 7 out of 10. Obviously, we'll have to wait until the full release of the game to see if that score sticks, but depending on the changes that they make, I may feel better or worse about it. Thank you for watching my video. I'm Bright Lion, and I'd love to see your feedback in the comments. How do you feel about the game? What are your favorite parts? What do you not like about it? I'm interested to hear your opinions. If you enjoyed this chat, please leave a like to let me know, and if you want to see more like this, please subscribe so you'll be notified when I upload more videos. For now, that's all I have for you, so I'm going to head back into the office and conduct some more research.